Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Off the Set. My name is David Osmond. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm thrilled to introduce you to someone that maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but he's a buddy that I've known for quite a few years and a fascinating gentleman. He's an American television personality, producer, he's a public speaker, best-selling author, and also private investigator. That's kind of a cool twist of things. I want to dive into what that side of your life is and how that became a huge TV show. Troy Dunn is in the studio, the podcast studio today, and he's got stories for days. I don't even know where I'd begin to start opening that shell, but your early life started in Kansas. You moved to Florida, spent a lot of time there, and ultimately came here to Utah, doing a lot of different things. Troy, welcome to Fresh Off the Set. It's nice to have you in studio.
Brother, you are so generous when you introduce. First of all, I'm happy.
I know. I have arrived.
Keep them on. Turn and look at the camera. Let them see you.
No shame.
I just like as I'm aging, because I hate it. I like to see people starting to put them on.
It happened, man. It's like it's just one of those necessary things. I understand. It's a badge of honor for sure. So
I hope
I'm in the club.
Gets one shot in their life to have you introduce them. Because I mean, if you took the food delivery guy, the Uber Eats guy, into a living room to drop off food, you would take the whole group and go, "Hey, everybody, listen!" Like, you're so generous.
Well, it was easy because I read it the exact way you wrote it.
Oh yeah,
so,
perfect. My mom wrote it.
No, but hey, if it takes one to know one, you're the ultimate nice guy producer. And I wouldn't say party planner, but you know what I mean. You know how to put together the right people and then tee them up for success and make everybody feel like the star of the room. And you do that naturally as well. I've seen it firsthand. You've done it for me, as we've even done a lot of shows together, performances, and you've been promoting. And so we'll start from kind of the beginnings of your career, who you are, where you got started, what did you want to become as a kid, and how did you end up in the Fresh Off the Set studio talking about your career today? Where did you begin? The beginnings of Troy Dunn, out of Kansas.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
this is like a Barbara Walters
interview. We're going to pack it all in. Yeah, get your Kleenex.
I don't know if I can go back that far and have a good story to tell you. I mean, I grew up in a family that my dad was a struggling entrepreneur. I tell people he was a rainbow chaser because he had great ideas but no follow through and execution, and which is one of those things that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. And so we moved a lot. I went to a different school every year of my life, from kindergarten to high school.
I understand that. Every semester was a new school.
Every semester.
It was bad.
Yeah, I didn't do that much. But yeah, I literally have 12 schools, 12 years of school, 12 houses, 12 bedrooms, 12 neighborhoods, 12, I always tell people I made a career out of being a new kid at school. And if you're that guy, if you're the new kid, every single year, life at the lunch table, life on the bus, it's hard. So you've developed certain survival skills,
thick skin
to build relationships quick, and I label people best friend really fast because you don't know, come August who the next one is. But that was kind of the base I grew from. I grew from a family that's 3 generations of adoption. My little brother is adopted, Native American, Travis, and my mom's adopted, and my grandmother did.
Wow!
And so a lot of adoption. I'm not, but a lot of adoption. And I've always listened to my mom talk about wanting to find her biological family, and she never did. And it was a kind of a trauma thing to watch her throughout my childhood, search, go to genealogy centers and go look at old phone books and old new, always searching. And then I met a guy one day when I was 22 who had done his own adoption search, found his own birth family. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think it was doable. Would you help me help my mom find her family?"
Did she always want to be reconnected? I mean, each circumstance is different, right?
Yeah, but I think it's not as different as people think. Now, all these years later, having done this a lot, there are people who will say, "Oh, I don't want to know who my family is," but that's not always true. It's just what people say to not offend the feelings of the people and raise them. You have to remember, if you're adopted, then your life story begins on chapter 2, right? Because you don't know chapter 1. You don't know. Nobody tells you on your birthday that, remember when you were born and that was Dad raced through the traffic, and you have a chapter 2. That's where your life starts. So
a lot of left ends and unknowns.
Just questions. It's just everybody wants to know their life story. Not to mention the less emotional part, which is just the medical thing. There's 6,000 illnesses that are hereditary. 50% of them skip a generation, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. So it's kind of Russian roulette to go through life adopted and not have your biological history. So for a lot of reasons, my mom always searched. And then I met this guy. He had done it. I begged him to help me help my mom. He said, well, I'm not a professional, but why don't you tell me what she knows? And I snuck over to her house. She had a shoebox under her bed that's been there for 20 years that she would put scraps of paper in as she searched, and brought that to his house, dumped it out, spread it across the table. And 5.5 hours later, he slid a yellow sticky right across the table to me, and it had a phone number on it.
What?
He said, that is your mom's phone number. And I was like dumbfounded. And I was trembling. I'm a 22-year-old, college football player. I don't think of myself as a tender, emotional guy, but it was startling.
This is your grandma.
Yeah, it'd be my biological grandmother. And so
did you know anything else besides the phone number, a name, anything to go on?
He showed me how he connected all the dots and how it was really amazing. It's not like they're not that easy most of the time.
Yeah.
So I said, and he said, you need to call your mom. Yeah, of course. So I call my mom. I said, Mom, are you sitting? And she said,
yeah.
I said, no, Mom, I'm holding up with your mother's phone number. She really quiet and then just began to sob, in a way that I've never heard them cry. That's from her gut, from her core.
Wow.
And it was a long, quiet moment of her cry, and she kind of gave it. And that was the beginning for us. That was the beginning of, I hung up the phone from that experience. I said to the kid that helped me, my mom can't be, we should build like a business or something, my missing family member. And we did. We set it up in the back bedroom of his house, and we didn't know how to market or sell or do anything. We were just two kids.
Yeah.
Went to an adoption convention, and a lady walked up, and she said, and you won't recognize the name because you're too young.
And thank you. These glasses are fake, by the way. This is just for just a fashion statement.
Me feel better. And she said, hi, I'm a producer for a brand new TV talk show called The Williams Show. Would you guys come on the show and read a family? And we initially said no. I said, it feels a little exploited. And she said, no, think of all the families that have no idea that they get help. Yeah, that's a good point. So we went on Montel in New York City, did a family reunion, mother, daughter, amazing. The next day, our answering took 12,004 hours.
Oh my gosh.
12,000. Now,
That's insane.
At this point, our answering service hadn't taken more than like 7 calls a week. And most of those were my mom saying, what would you boys like to have for lunch? And then she'd make us lunch and bring it. 12,000 messages. And at $1.50 a message, 20,000. So we were instantly broke, but we instantly figured out this is how we're going to grow our business, is we'll tell great stories about families, and that will help the word out. And next thing you know, we're on daytime talk shows, every show on hundreds of times a year. It got really big. We had 1,800 employees working, and we 1,000.
Wow.
And
is that like some kind of a record? I mean, or are there...
Are there
a lot of people doing this like what you're doing? Because you told me earlier today, you went, half the world is looking for the other half of the world. Like, is it that big of a challenge? People are just disassociated?
I think that...
Disconnected?
I think that people separate for... Certainly in the 40,000 cases that we saw, they're not all... there's people looking because, separated one kid and the kids separating each other. Lost loved ones, who met back and made the relationship work. And they're 2 divorces later going, wow, I should have... A lot of military guys. We get a lot of military. I haven't seen him since he pulled me out of the foxhole and saved my life. Yeah. I was flown home. They want to see that. A lot of dying wishes. When we get to the end of our life, especially if you know it, right? The doctor tells you short term. People start to think about people, and we get those a lot. I don't have much time to live.
When you're in the trenches with someone having the most emotional experience of their lives, like you experienced it first with your mom, when you're as an empath, I would imagine you feel that energy. What does it do to you as the person that helped connect that? Is it overwhelming? Do you kind of have to step out of it and just realize what your role is, or does it affect your emotions when you're watching this? Because 40,000 cases is a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I would even describe myself as an empath, but I might have evolved into one because of this journey that I've been on. I wouldn't have said years ago. If you watch our television show, because eventually this turned into a show,
The Locator.
We got a phone call from Ancestry.com, and they said, love what you search for the thing, we search for the dead. You should be part of our organization. I said, it's our baby, this. And they're like, I know, but we could help more people than you do because we have scale. And the founder of Ancestry.com, Paul Allen, flew Jennifer and I out to Utah, and said, we want to acquire you, be a spokesperson. So we sold the company to Ancestry, and then I spent 3 as their TV spokesperson stuff. Yeah. But
it was that acquisition that brought you to Utah with Paul.
No, I worked hard to not Utah, which is I really did, and I'm just confessing, to be honest. I think we're converts to the LDS Church. We converted, and we've only ever lived outside of Utah. And I'd only met a handful of Utah people in my life that had visited Omaha, Kansas. And I always thought, they don't know what life is like. I don't want to raise my kids in this little. They live in the sweetest little pretend cities, and I just thought I don't want to.
That's funny.
And now, but I've lived here 9 years. And I regret everything I ever thought, and I wasted a lot of time not being here. I sincerely, Utah. But at the time, I actually told Ancestry, part of my deal, my contract was I would sell them the business if I didn't have. And they're like, yeah, but you're the spokesperson. Like, yeah, but it's mostly me. And I'll come into the office. They said, you'll commute from Florida. I said, yeah. And for 3 years from Florida to fulfill my contract. And then I had a 7-year-old daughter who got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of cashed out of Ancestry, went full-time, be her roommate, Ronald McDonald, New York City, trying to get healed. And so that was kind of where that chapter turned, and got her stable. Be called the most bizarre, never planned for it, wasn't part of it to be offered.
Happened fast.
It was ridiculous. It was this. There's another show you won't remember because you're too young.
You're very kind. And for the record, Montel's a good buddy of mine, and Paul Allen is too, so I'm older than.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dirt.
All right. Well, anyway, there was a TV show called The Sally Jesse Raphael Show back in the day, and she wore red glasses, and the mother of all.
She could stir up some controversy, and
I made dozens and dozens of appearances on her show. And one of the producers, not even a producer, she was an associate producer who started at Diet Coke. She called me years later after I'd done the whole Ancestry chapter, and she said, "Troy, it's Holly," and I said, "Holly from Sally?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Oh my gosh. I haven't heard from you in forever. What's going on?" She said, "Crazy story. I'll tell you later. But anyway, I'm the president of Sony Television."
Yeah. From Diet Cokes to the.
They're not kidding when they tell you be nice to people on the way up.
You meet them on the way down. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was really amazing. And she said that. She said, "You were always so kind to me, and I've always loved it. And we'd love to build a TV show or need something." And that was it. They went and created the Locator, sold it to WeTV, became the highest rated show on the network. And that just spun into another show at TNT, another show called Last Hope that we did on. Anyway, so all that took place. But circling back to your question, I was crying all the time. I was crying. To be honest with you, I cry still today because we nonprofit. I hear voicemails because people aren't calling. It isn't like they're calling to place an order pizza. They're calling and saying, I can't wake up in me until I my mom and her brother, or I was a terrible person and I want some redemption, and there's some people I need to, and I've sober clean, and I reach these people and I can't find them. And I mean, they're always something really urgent, and so the stress is all. But if you ever do get really desperate for something to binge and you watch the old Locator episode, you'll see too much crying from the Troyster. I get emotional a lot, and they edit a lot out because it's like, "Troy, we're going to sniff it before every interview, so we're going to cut some." But I do feel like I had the greatest job in the, And I feel like maybe the second. I think Santa Claus has the greatest job in the world, but for sure, having a front row seat to so tender, gratifying,
and seeing and being a part of firsthand all these incredible reunions and stories are emotional. They're life-changing. You've had a chance to now take that and to go to audiences as a keynote speaker. You've written several books. Are all your books, are they having to do with this topic, or do you ever go into other paths or other career
No, I think my
ventures?
Most of my books are more focused just because, you can't do good things inside of it. Right? It's kind of great doctors. There's some great doctors in the world, but they guys know all about medicine and offices, fortunately. So my business are more, things that come out of my personal life. We have 8 children. They're all adults but one. We made them all start small businesses when they were 5-year-old.
Good for you.
So I wrote a book called Young Bucks, How to Raise a Future Million. And that was a bestseller off of just appearances on CNBC. It was crazy. So no, I don't really have... Unlike you, everybody knows you and exactly who you are, and which is a beautiful, gifted, and talented performer. I don't know. I just, I'm 58.
You're trying to locate your own.
I don't think I'm trying to locate anything.
Who am I?
I'm not even. I'm just happy being me, whatever chapter I'm in. I mean, I didn't think I'd any of the chartered cruise ships. But
this is a fascinating twist of events. I mean, now that you have the Charter King is what it's known by. That's the website?
The Charter King, Charter King.
But you're able to. I think maybe you know people and you see dynamics and family relationships, how you find them. I think you also have this gift of being able to network and say, you have these gifts and this person has these gifts. You guys need to know each other. So maybe there's a part of you that just says, we need to put you together in a fun environment where you can engage and connect. So you've chartered these huge vessels, these ships that can house over 3,000 to 4,000 people.
Well, what really drove it was we started a nonprofit Locator, because even though we no longer had a business that went on people, all of my TV shows still circle day somewhere, and there's lots of it happening. We're in 46 countries, our show is. I speak so many languages, you have no idea. My German me, whoever does that voice, I mean, it is the manliest version of me. If I could be Schwarzenegger, that's the German Locator. He's amazing, whoever does that voice.
Your wife, Jennifer, she'd say, hey, could you just learn German, speak German for me today?
No, because what happened, my kids will tell me, Dad, you sound like Schwarzenegger. I'm like, yeah, I wish it was me.
Yeah.
But then my wife reminds me that the French version of the Locator is effeminate as it can be.
Oh, that's hilarious. Dad's got a lot of personalities.
Different. But when we started the nonprofit, we knew we had to figure out how to fund it. And so that's when I go, okay, I come up with some more Locator Foundation, because I don't know any families who are like, oh, we'll write you a check and we'll take care of every reunion for the rest of it. That's always everybody's fan, right?
Yeah.
So instead I have to grind. And so that's where the charter started.
I see. Got it.
When COVID started in 2020, I made my I didn't know it at the moment, but I made my last appearance on longtime friend. Has had me on the show many, and then they went dark, right? COVID hit, they went dark. Phil texted me and he said, we're going dark, and I may or may not use this as an opportunity to also
make an exit.
Yeah, which he ultimately ended up doing. Now he's down in Texas. And anyway, and so it was during COVID when cruising shut down. I was like, the industry's going to need some cool things coming out. When they come out of this, I bet you we could take over ships affordable. Anyway, that's
cool.
And you came on some.
Quite a few of these ships. You've had me come on as an entertainer and experience, and it's a very niche.
Not an entertainer, the entertainer.
Oh, thank you. Then now you're reading my intro.
No, it's amazing to walk around with you, because I know you as such a nice dude and a friend, and people are enamored by your presence, and you aren't just really cool as David, but you're like the ultimate representative of what everybody believes Osmonds are, right? The brand of Osmond. Yeah. And you carry that brand really well. I'm sure the family's...
Thanks. I hope so. Yeah. Maybe you'll get the honest answer. I really appreciate the compliment. That's very kind.
No, I mean it. I mean, I think you do. You hold it up well. You have a couple of relatives who don't do so well at that. But I mean, I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm kidding. But anyway, that's how the charter thing came about.
I'm not going to name names, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
No, they're all awesome.
They're all, of course.
We were all... the family dynamics and relationships are very interesting. You've dealt with that, obviously, with Locator and everything. Every family has its own
Let me tell
twists.
you something. Can I tell you something? Let me be super transparent. We've had some trauma in my family. And there are still some who aren't speaking to each other. We have drama in our family.
Really?
Some of it, I would say I'm the culprit, the instigator of those problems, and broken pasts and poor choices and those sorts of things. I do. And I think I can look back at this age and look back to my earlier career as the Locator and think there was a season of hypocrisy when I was rebuilding families while probably under myself breaking my own in some ways.
Wow.
And those were heavy realities to come to grips with. But I only share that. One, I'm in a chapter of my life where I love transparency, authenticity, and I'm okay. I'm perfect. Love me, and people who don't, and people who used to and don't, and dealing with that, because having spent all these years as I've seen how families fracture and work that take, and I wouldn't want anybody who's listening to their family, because it is fractured or has trauma or suffering, that somehow there's something wrong with their family because they're not like other families. It's been my experience that there is no family that doesn't have inside it. And I'm not hinting at the Osmonds.
No, but I'll be the first to say we've all got stuff, and our family included.
And I have friends in high places, I'll just say that, both in the Hollywood world and the LDS world. And I would say, knowing them so closely, that is true for every family is going through it. And dare I say, not to take this off on a weird path, that could be the whole purpose we're here. And so I own that, and I'm okay with that. And I hope that people listening, if you're in a situation where you think, people say, oh, my family's dysfunctional. I don't think there's a function. I don't know what functional.
What does that mean?
What does it even mean? Does it mean I mean, I've seen some people who think they're functional, and in my head, I'm like,
Whoa.
they are in the biggest, deepest hole of denial I've ever seen, or they're shallow communicators because nobody speaks their truth. Nobody shares their feelings. Nobody, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not to get this all weird. But in the process of reuniting 40,000 days, I developed some vision of prior to that I should have turned on myself and had to and say, wow, what does it take for redemption to, and what do you need to do, and what level of humility do you have to reach, and what do you have to finally own without excuses? And that's been the journey. So it's a little nicer to charter cruise ships.
Those are reflective, powerful questions, though, to really ask ourselves as we kind of come to the close of this particular podcast. And thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in. Yeah. This is a really fascinating topic to really think about in our own lives, not just our familial relationship, how we treat people, how we connect with people, the barriers, the boundaries that we set for each other, and whether we separate, how we communicate in general. I think it's a fascinating topic for sure. And nowadays, with the advancement of the technology from when you first started as the Locator, that very first connection to where we are now, it seems like we're more connected than ever before, and we're also more disconnected
100%.
Than ever. We don't even look up at each other anymore, just right in face-to-face, line to line. What is the world like now for this challenge? Is it easier to just find someone on a whim? Like, is it harder? Is it easier to hide yourself if you want to? Like, where's that industry going as far as connecting?
Well,
if that makes sense.
When we started this journey, the big tool was, and the tool today, DNA testing. And so from a technological standpoint, DNA testing rips all the places out. If you have secrets, they're coming out. Yeah. So that part of it's made it easier, but we now live in a society where everybody's skeptic, and so the communication to reach people and get a call back, get a response, those things are multiple times harder. And because people are they're harder to find online now, people are to get smarter. When I sign up for this thing, and I'll do this, and I'm not going to respond to that. So, it's more about the psychological part of the journey. It's getting people courageous enough. Because I tell people all the time, and I always said that I mean it from my heart, you cannot find, and that closure is what we're all seeking. And you can listen to them, reach out to terminally. That's all that they're asked for. The gold watch they had as a kid, or the cool car they drove. None of that matters in 6 months. It's just.
Wow, to wrap up the last thing, you mentioned the foundation. There's a Locator Foundation, it's called. What's the purpose of that, and how can we support you?
Oh, God. The Locator Foundation exists because I did a keynote for a corporate CEO in Utah, and he took me and he said, thanks to do something for, well, your crowd was. He's like, no, how can we? He said, what's your number one problem outside of your personal life? What's your number one problem? I said, past television shows are trending Amazon Prime, and people watch those shows. I reach out to have somebody finance for an email box of thousands and thousands of heartbreaking families who think the Locator is sitting there. He said, can carry on. I said, that'd be great about that. So he said, I'm going to educate you. And the website, thelocator.org. And poof, we were off and running. Circled up a bunch of the researchers and DNA experts from the past and say, hey, let's keep granting wishes, even for people who can't pay us, can't afford. And so that's what started. But the fundraising's hard as heck. So, I would be like any other nonprofit. We'd love an angel that went and said, I wishes it. Otherwise, go on our cruises because we contribute funds from these.
It all goes back full circle. That's cool. Man, Troy, you're a fascinating guy. You and your wife, Jennifer, you've been married how many years?
37.
Congratulations.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Beautiful family. And I can tell since the day I met you how people, you value them. Relationships matter, just intrinsic value. And I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all you're doing to be that game changer in the world and helping people find that peace through finding it. That is really, really good.
Law of attraction. That's why you and I are friends, because I think we value the same thing.
Thanks. I believe that. And to all our audience listening, we value you too. Thank you. We're all connected
Come hang out with
in
David
this great big world. Thank you for being on Fresh Off the Set. It's great to hang with you, Troy.
Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.